My Sick Mother. Chapter 1. A Simple Life. I was born and raised in a small town in Pennsylvania. Our family was not rich, but we had enough to live. My mother, Maria Thompson, was the heart of our home. She cooked, cleaned, and loved us all deeply. She was the kind of person who smiled even when she was tired, and always had kind words for everyone. My father worked as a mechanic, and I had a younger sister named Emily. We lived in a modest two-bedroom house near the edge of town, surrounded by fields and trees. Life was simple, peaceful, and happy. Every evening, my mother would sit by the kitchen window, drinking tea and watching the sunset. She said the orange sky made her feel close to God. I never really understood it as a child, but I smiled and sat beside her, just happy to be near. Chapter 2. The First Sign. It started with small things. My mother would forget where she placed her keys, or leave the stove on for too long. Sometimes she felt dizzy, but she laughed it off. "Just tired, honey," she'd say with that familiar smile. Mothers don't get to rest much, you know. We didn't worry much until the day she fainted in the backyard while watering the plants. Emily screamed, and we rushed her to the hospital. That day changed everything. Chapter 3. The Diagnosis. After hours of tests, the doctor finally came into the waiting room. His face was serious. I held Emily's hand tightly. "I'm afraid your mother has a condition called multiple sclerosis," he said gently. "It's a chronic illness that affects the brain and spinal cord. Over time, it will become harder for her to walk, talk, and do simple tasks." My father nodded slowly, but I could see the pain in his eyes. Emily didn't understand. She asked, "Will Mama die?" The doctor gave a soft sigh. "Not soon, but her life will become very different." That night, I sat by my mother's hospital bed. She was asleep, pale and weak. I held her hand and whispered, "Please don't leave us, Mama." Chapter 4. Changes at Home. After she came home, life wasn't the same. My mother had to stop working. She moved more slowly. Her hands sometimes shook, and her memory became worse. I took on many of her tasks: cooking, cleaning, helping Emily with homework. My father worked extra hours to pay the medical bills. I grew up fast because I had to, but I never complained. Every night, I sat beside my mother and talked to her. Sometimes she smiled, sometimes she cried. But she always said, "Thank you for being strong, my child." Chapter 5. Her Strength. Despite her illness, my mother never gave up. She learned to walk again with a cane. She cooked small meals and read books aloud to Emily. Her body was weak, but her spirit was strong. She once told me, "Illness may take my strength, but it cannot take my love. I will always be your mother, no matter what." Her words stayed in my heart. Chapter 6. School and Struggles. I was in high school now, and balancing everything was hard. I woke up early, cooked breakfast, went to school, came home, and took care of the house. Sometimes I was tired. Sometimes I cried in silence. I miss the days when my mother was strong, when I was just a child without responsibilities. But then I'd hear her voice, calling softly, "Thank you, sweetheart," and I knew I had to keep going. Teachers noticed I was quiet and tired. One day, my English teacher, Mrs. Benson, asked to speak with me. She listened as I told her everything, and then she hugged me. "You are brave," she said, and your story needs to be heard. Maybe you should write it." That night, I began writing in a notebook, My Sick Mother. Chapter 7, A Special Bond. As the years passed, my bond with my mother grew deeper. We shared stories, memories, and songs. Even on her hardest days, she smiled when I came home. Sometimes she told me stories about her childhood, about how she met Dad, and how happy she was when I was born. "I held you in my arms," she said, "and I knew you were my little angel." Even though her body was failing, her love never stopped. It filled every corner of our home. Chapter 8, A Turn for the Worse. One winter evening, my mother's health took a sudden turn. She couldn't move her right side, and her speech became slurred. We rushed her to the hospital again. This time, the news was worse. "The disease has progressed rapidly," the doctor said. "She may not recover fully." I felt a deep pain in my chest. Emily cried for hours. At the hospital, I held my mother's hand and said, "Please don't give up." She looked at me with tired eyes and whispered, "I'm still here, my love." Chapter 9, Graduation Day. Despite everything, I managed to finish high school with good grades. On graduation day, I wore my gown and cap and held a photo of my mother, who was still in the hospital. She couldn't come, but I visited her after the ceremony. I put the graduation cap on her head and said, "We did it, Mom." She smiled with tears in her eyes. "I'm so proud of you." That moment meant more than any award or prize. Chapter 10, Letters and Love. One day, I found a small box under my mother's bed. Inside were letters, one for me, one for Emily, one for Dad. I opened mine. It read, "To my dear child, if you are reading this, I may not be with you anymore, but remember, my love will always surround you. You gave me strength when I had none. You gave me purpose when I felt lost. I'm proud of the person you've become. Keep living, dreaming, and loving. And when you feel alone, just look at the sky. I'll be there. Love, your mother." I held the letter close to my heart and cried. Chapter 11, A Final Goodbye. One morning, the hospital called. She passed peacefully in her sleep. The nurse said she wasn't in pain. The world felt empty. I stood by her bed and kissed her forehead. "Thank you, Mama," I whispered. "Thank you for everything." We buried her under a big tree where the sun always shined. Emily and I placed flowers and read her favorite poem. Though she was gone, her spirit lived on in our hearts. Chapter 12, Life Goes On. Years passed. I went to college, studied nursing, and later became a caregiver for people like my mother. Emily grew up to be a teacher. Dad retired and often sat by the tree, talking to Mom. I kept the letter with me always. On hard days, I'd read it and feel her presence. I started writing more about family, love, strength, and hope. And one day, I published my first book. Its title, My Sick Mother.